Greetings! I'd like to call this meeting to order. President Harris, Acting Provost Wilhite, learned faculty colleagues, committed staff, friends, and guests. Welcome to Hogwarts. Forgive me. My head is still in the summer movies of Harry Potter and Captain America. I mean, welcome to Widener. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Brent Satterly. When I started at Widener in 1997, I recall attending a faculty meeting years ago in awe of the processes in play to accomplish the business of the faculty. The chair deftly handled Robert's Rules of Order, and all I remember thinking is, I would never, ever want that job. Much has changed for me since then. I stand before you today humbled and honored to serve as your faculty chair. Before I begin my remarks, I would like to take a moment to honor those faculty members who have worked tirelessly to serve Widener in their roles in faculty governance. Would those of you who have served the university in various roles of governance over the years please stand? Come on, you can do it. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you very much. I joked about Harry Potter earlier. For those of you who don't know this story, it's a tale about young witches and wizards by author J.K. Rowling. She tells the tale of a certain young wizard who goes off to magic school to learn the ethic and art and science of spellcraft in a world that often doesn't understand those who are different. Led by patient and committed professors, these magical students test their skills and knowledge in order to use their abilities for the good of society. Frankly, it reminds me of the mission of Widener. Widener provides an academic environment where talented students, guided by engaged and committed faculty, that's you, can develop their skills, can grow their knowledge both in community as well as the classroom. Our students learn their lore for the betterment of a local and global society. Widener isn't like other universities. With such innovative programs as the Small Business Development Center, the Chester Community Physical Therapy Clinic, the Creative Writing Summer Camp, Social Work Counseling Services, the Institute for Graduate Clinical Psychology's Biofeedback Clinic and Certification Center, Alternative Spring Break, the Widener Partnership Charter School, and the myriad of service learning courses such as Environmental Sciences' 10-week course in Costa Rica and Hospitality Management's tireless work with Chester Eastside Ministries, just to name a few, sets Widener apart where magic happens. As I wrote in my platform statement, to serve as faculty chair is to serve the faculty. I strongly believe this. To me, this means a few important things. First, it means listening. Inspired by my brilliant predecessor, Dr. Ann Krause, wherever you are, I would like to plan holding a few governance coffee houses over the course of the academic year, where faculty chairs and available committee members can gather informally to hear the voices of faculty members and issues that are important to them. Second, it means caring. I pride myself on being student-centered in my approach to teaching. I shall serve in a comparable capacity in my role as chair. I care deeply about shared governance and its efficacy. Having served in various capacities in faculty governance over the years that I have been here, I have developed a deep respect for the civil and collegial manner in which we as faculty members conduct ourselves. Third, it means inspiring. As a teacher, I try to serve as role model to inspire my students in their growth and development. This year, I hope to serve in such a role as to inspire my colleagues, that's you, to get involved in faculty governance, where you too can make a difference. Lastly, it means leading. As a leader, you will find me approachable and assertive, caring and collaborative, hopeful and helpful, open and optimistic. I will continue the tireless work of those who have come before and lead us forward in the spirit that is Widener's vision. Widener aspires to be the nation's preeminent metropolitan university, recognized for an unparalleled academic environment, innovative approaches to learning, active scholarship, and the preparation of students for responsible citizenship in a global society. To close, I shall quote the magical words of Albus Dumbledore, the headmaster of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. It doesn't matter when someone is born, but what they grow up to be. Let us help our students grow to be the best they can through the magic of an inspirational education. Thank you very much. Thank you. And now it is my pleasure to introduce the chairs of faculty council committees in order. Chairs, as you hear your name called, please rise. And if you can stay standing, that would be great. Please hold your applause till the end, at which time I expect to be a rousing round of applause. Faculty Secretary, Professor Mark Nicosia. Chair of Faculty Affairs Committee, Professor Mary Henry. Chair of Faculty Grants and Awards Committee, Professor Susan Shamming. Chair of Budget, Planning and Assessment Committee, Professor Andrea Martin. Chair of Library Committee, Professor Noreen Bueller. Chair of Academic Computing Services, Professor Sue Greenberg. Chair of Academic Affairs Committee, Professor Scott Van Braven. Chair of Committee Admissions and Financial Aid Committee, Professor Joy Dickerson. Chair of Promotion, Tenure, and Academic Freedom, Professor Annalisa Castaldo. Chair of Instructional Resources Committee, Professor Dawn Gulick. And Chair of Student Services, well, he's not here. That was me last year. We will have an election at the November meeting. Let's give them a round of applause, please. Thank you. It is now my pleasure and privilege to introduce our president, Dr. James Tijeras. Dr. Harris.
Thank you, Dr. Satterly. I'm just pleased you didn't introduce me as Dumbledore. Widener is indeed a magical place, and I pledge to work very closely with you and your colleagues. And I don't know if I have any magic up my sleeve, but I'm certainly looking forward to the next 2 years working with you. And I appreciate the fact that you've taken on this incredible role. This summer, I had the opportunity to help move our oldest son from New Haven, Connecticut, back to Philadelphia. He had just completed his MBA in July and has a job back in Philadelphia, so I go up to get the U-Haul, and as part of his move, I agreed to meet him in New Haven to help him clean his apartment, pack the moving van, and drive it home to Wallingford. So the morning of the move, it was one of those July days that we suffered through, very hot, very humid. I decided, well, it's not really worth showering and shaving to do this. No one knows me, and I'll put on a baseball cap and a pair of shorts and an old t-shirt because I'll be in the heat all day and I'm cleaning his apartment anyway. So of course we started cleaning the cleaning project and moving. He had some friends help him. And of course, he doesn't know that you're supposed to clean your oven sometime during that year that you have the lease in your apartment. So I don't have enough cleaning supplies. So I have my cup of coffee with me, and I said, Zach, I need to have some more cleaning supplies. Where can I find them? Do you have a place locally? He said, yeah, there's a convenience store, Dad. And he gave me the directions. Go out the front door, do this, turn there, and go there. So promptly I left, a cup of coffee in my hand, walking down the block, unshaven, sweaty, I imagine looking completely disheveled. And I realized I didn't know what direction to go. I paused on a corner. I took the top off my coffee cup and I threw it away so I could finish the last drop. And the guy was walking by and I turned and I said, sir, do you think you could help me? And he said, I don't give money to strangers. So your president was mistaken for a panhandler. Not that anybody should be completely surprised. One of my colleagues said to me earlier, when I first took the job, so you know what the definition of a college president is, and it's someone who's well educated, lives in a nice home, and begs for a living. Although my identity was mistaken that day in New Haven, and I may have lost my way, it is very clear to me as we embark on another academic year that there's no confusion about Widener's direction and its identity. We're a leading metropolitan university, and as Dr. Satterly suggested, we are known for our unparalleled academic environment, innovative approaches to learning, active scholarship, and preparation for students in a responsible citizenship in a global society. Today, I wish to discuss how our reputation has grown in recent years through the pursuit of academic excellence by our faculty and our students, and the communities we serve, and how this direction has clarified our mission, our vision, and our future growth. However, to reach our goals, we must recognize we face several challenges ahead. So today I will share with you some of my priorities for 2011, things which I believe we need to address in the next year in order to reach the goals outlined in our strategic plan, Vision 2015. Before I begin, let me remind you that the university data set is always available online for your review. Suffice to say, our data on recruitment and enrollment looks similar to previous years. We have a slightly bigger freshman class. We have a smaller evening class at the School of Law on both campuses. We believe that our graduate programs will be even, and at University College, we're waiting to see those numbers. So in the whole, we should be comparable to previous years. While it's too early to determine the final headcount, our retention rates for returning freshmen, we expect enrollment to be stable and freshman retention to be within a point or two of where it was in the last 3 years. So all this you can find on the institutional research website. There are numerous ways to measure whether an institution's reputation is growing, and one way of doing that is the recognition our faculty receive from outside reviewers about their scholarship and research, and there are a number of examples. One is that the Social Science Research Network a few years ago ranked Widener Law 47th in the nation in the number of faculty articles that have been downloaded and referenced. Over the past 3 years, we've recognized different forms of scholarship through our awards for faculty teaching, research, and civic engagement, sponsored by the Office of Teaching, Learning, and Assessment. Through this recognition program, scholars and academic leaders from outside of Widener review and assess the work of our faculty nominees across all schools and colleges, and the response has been overwhelming. Our award winners have been nominated for national awards, and the results have been impressive. A few years ago, we had a National Innovation in Teaching Award winner. This past year, the Civic Engagement Award winner, Dr. John Poulin, was named one of the 4 finalists for the Tom Ehrlich Award, which is the highest recognition given a faculty member nationally for their work in civic engagement by National Campus Compact. One of the ways the university has enhanced the ability of faculty here at Widener to produce new scholarship and research has been through the good work of the Office of Sponsored Programs and Research. Since its inception just 2 years ago, the office has helped Widener faculty across all the schools at the university generate over $28 million in proposals, resulting in 26 awards totaling over $2.5 million. The largest grant to date was awarded to Dr. Shirley Drayton Brooks for her work on Postmaster's Doctor of Nursing Practice Program Enhancement for Family Nurse Practitioners, and that amount was in over $1 million over the next 3 years. More and more faculty are using the services in the Office of Sponsored Programs and Research, and I believe the potential for the future is great. I wish to thank Dr. Bridget Ballasy, Assistant Provost for Assessment, as well as Liz DeFrancisco, Assistant Director of Sponsored Programs and Research, for all their good work. And if you're curious about this office, please look them up. They'd be very happy to give you a hand. All these myriad activities, from the School of Law recognition to the national awards we're receiving for civic engagement and teaching, to the grants our faculty have competed for, fall in line with what is widely accepted as scholarship. Many of you recall the Ernest Boyer report when he was then president of Carnegie Foundation for the Advancement of Teaching in the late 1980s. It was entitled Scholarship Reconsidered. In that report, Boyer argued that we should look at scholarship in a new way. He reframed the work of faculty to be more inclusive and focused on the broader idea of scholarship. At the time, he identified 4 categories of scholarship: the scholarship of discovery, the scholarship of integration, the scholarship of application, and the scholarship of teaching. A few years later, he added a 5th category, the scholarship of engagement. Fortunately for Widener University, in the mid-1990s, our faculty colleagues and most schools and departments at Widener discussed and adopted Boyer's original 4 categories. In recent years, many more of our academic departments have taken the step to incorporate the scholarship of engagement as well. I think in many ways this is an appropriate time in our history to revisit these concepts and reaffirm that our faculty are appropriately encouraged and rewarded for work in all 5 categories, not just in the scholarship of discovery and integration. I believe there are opportunities to shine more light and provide better support for the good work of faculty in all these areas, as well as to encourage more innovative ways to advance knowledge. Of course, this work must be led by the faculty and respect the governance structure within each school, college, and department for these discussions. What I see as president is a growing evidence that our faculty are engaging in innovative approaches to advancing teaching and research, and that due to our growing reputation for being actively engaged in the communities that we serve, we are attracting more faculty who view Widener as a place where their particular form of scholarship will be encouraged and advanced. In a national survey of faculty conducted last year by UCLA, in which we participated, Widener faculty were more likely than their peers nationally to include community service as part of their coursework. In addition, the faculty at Widener were more likely to collaborate with the local community in research and in teaching, as well as to use their scholarship to address community needs. In my opinion, we need to ensure, moving forward, that we can demonstrate we truly do value such scholarship. To me, this discussion is really about the true aim of higher education. In that regard, I'm reminded of Boyer's definition of the aim of education in that same report I mentioned earlier. He said, the true aim of education is not only to prepare students for productive careers, but also to enable them to live lives of dignity and purpose. Not to generate new knowledge, but to channel it to humane ends, and not merely to study government, but to help shape citizens that can promote the public good. As impressive as the scholarship of our faculty is, the work of our faculty and students to promote the public good is equally remarkable. In the summer memo that you should have received from my office a few weeks ago, I mentioned that Widener was once again named to the President of the United States Community Service Honor Roll with distinction. A designation bestowed on only 18% of institutions recognized in the honor roll. Other institutions in the five-county Philadelphia region honored with distinction include Bryn Mawr, Haverford, Penn, and Villanova, so I think we're in good company. This award and so many other accolades we have received in recent years have been based on the good work of our colleagues at Widener to promote the public good. There are other ways Widener has drawn positive attention. Over the summer, a book was published by the Association of Governing Boards. The book by Dr. Terry McTaggart highlights the work of 18 what they call highly functioning boards, and Widener's board work in promoting civic engagement is included. Excuse me. The book, How Boards and Presidents Build Exceptional Academic Institutions, is being promoted nationally and is being read by boards across the country, which I think will again enhance Widener's reputation. I would also like to mention the work that is being completed through the National Anchor Institutions Task Force. I've had the good fortune to represent Widener on that task force for the last 2 years, and there have been several positive results. First, it's important to understand what a higher education anchor institution is. By definition, anchor institutions are place-based organizations anchored within their communities that are tied to the community by reason of mission, invested capital, or established relationships. Therefore, all metropolitan universities, by definition, would be considered anchor institutions. This work began in earnest over the holiday break of 2008-09 when a group of higher education leaders, and I was honored to be part of that, wrote a report to the Secretary of HUD, suggesting new ways for HUD and other agencies to use these anchor institutions to promote the new urban agenda at the White House. Last December, the Annie Casey Foundation held a one-day summit for a select number of anchor institutions across the country, and at that meeting, we developed a relationship through some conversations with Casey Foundation program officers, one of whom visited the main campus a few weeks ago and brought with him, because he was so interested, a program officer from a different foundation. Dr. Pickron Davis organized a meeting that included conversations between the program officers, local community leaders, as well as representatives from here at Widener. Last spring, I was asked to participate in a meeting with representatives from the White House who were in Chester visiting with Mayor Butler and other city officials to determine if Chester should be included in a new White House initiative to strengthen local capacity and spark economic growth in the city, while ensuring that taxpayer dollars are used efficiently. One of the key elements in picking a city for the initiative was the presence of a higher education institution that could serve as an anchor institution in this initiative. Fortunately, Chester was selected as one of the 6 cities nationally. The 5 others were Cleveland, Ohio, Detroit, Michigan, Fresno, California, Memphis, Tennessee, and New Orleans, Louisiana. As part of this initiative called Strong Cities, Strong Communities, Widener will need to work even closer with the city, and federal officials on future projects will help strengthen Chester. Just 2 weeks ago, Dr. Pickron Davis, Dr. Wyatt, and Ms. Dietrich and I met with representatives from the Department of Justice to discuss city policing issues and how we might be able to work together. According to a recent report on university engagement published by the Democracy Collaborative, anchor institutions that wish to better serve the long-term viability of the communities where they reside can play really one of three roles. First of all, they can be a facilitator, they can be a leader, or they can be a convener. When universities act as a facilitator, the institution works with local community organizations by connecting faculty and students through academic service learning opportunities and by facilitating conversations between various organizations, including the university, to build and address societal needs. There are dozens of examples of academic service learning activities each semester that are led by our faculty that would place Widener in the role as a facilitator. According to the Democracy Collaborative, a university would be considered a leader when they attempt to address a specific societal issue, such as crime or failing schools, by taking a significant leadership role in the discussions and by making a direct commitment, either financially or through human resources. Our decision to develop and work with the City of Chester to fund a police substation across from this campus is an example of Widener in the role as a leader. A university would be considered a convener when it builds alliances with local organizations, government agencies, or other partners to set an agenda focused on a long-term strategy to improve the living conditions in a particular neighborhood. And they wish to establish communities, such as establishing community health goals or encouraging economic development. The work Widener has been involved in at the University Crossing site, in full cooperation with local community organizations such as the East Gateway Triangle Neighborhood Association, the Crozier-Chester Medical Center, TRF, and the City of Chester, is an example of Widener serving as a convener. As you can see, Widener has played all three roles at different levels in recent years. And as we move forward, I believe the idea of Widener as a metropolitan university that anchors the community and serves at various times as either a facilitator, a leader, or a convener is a great framework from which to view future partnerships. Moving to another way Widener is prepared to enhance its reputation is through the comprehensive positioning campaign that will focus on the theme, Widener Leadership Works. In about 3 weeks, Widener University will unveil the Widener Leadership Works campaign. Over the years, I've heard from people that we don't advertise or promote the university anywhere near as much as other institutions, particularly in the greater Philadelphia area. This campaign is a multifaceted promotional campaign whose direction was unanimously approved by the Board of Trustees in the spring. This campaign came about when Brian Tierney, one of our law school alums and a respected marketing and public relations expert, offered to create a communication plan for Widener. Brian and his team looked at a host of research studies the university had commissioned over the years, interviewed a number of people at Widener, and ultimately recommended an ad campaign to raise the profile of Widener University with the umbrella slogan of Widener Leadership Works. At the same time, the Marketing Advisory Board, which is composed of faculty, dean, and administrators, came to a similar conclusion independently, that instead of trying to promote under-enrolled programs, we should promote Widener as a whole and use leadership as the unifying theme, stressing that Widener educates leaders. So it seems as though the stars were aligned under this whole framework of leadership. The Widener Leadership Works campaign is more than an advertising campaign. It's a promotional campaign, which includes advertising, public relations, a high school leadership award program where we'll be partnering with Channel 10, a leadership civic engagement microsite on our website, ambitious plans for the opening of the Oskin Leadership Institute, as well as the 150th anniversary of the School of Engineering. The trustees allocated additional funds to make this plan happen. The advertising campaign, which will go live on September 19th, includes commercials on 5 TV stations, radio traffic sponsorships on 19 radio stations, radio commercials, billboards on 95, ads in newspapers such as the Philadelphia Inquirer and Philadelphia.com, as well as online search engines. Whenever you pull something up, our information would pull up on the side. Widener Leadership Works is a brand campaign designed to raise the visibility of Widener University writ large. Widener University Works should resonate with all constituent units of the university, undergraduate, grad, law, and university college. The idea is that people will be hearing and seeing the message all at the same time. So for example, we're hoping you're driving down 95, you see the billboard, you'll hear our ad on the radio, you go home to watch the Phillies, and you'll see the TV commercial that night. So we're trying to surround people with the idea of Widener. The advertising creative has been tested with focus groups and one-on-one interviews with different constituency groups, including high school students, parents of high school students, guidance counselors, and incoming graduate and law students. And the ads have been revised as a result of this testing. Advertisements in each of the media presented were all seen as meaningful by the focus group participants. Furthermore, exposure to the message points of the campaign appeared to successfully move Widener into consideration with schools that we'd like to be considered with, as best preparing students for careers, for leadership, and for fulfilling lives. This is just very quickly, I only have 2 slides today. I'll give you some example. Widener Leadership Works here. You have a focus on law, for example. And these would be the print ads. Or Widener Leadership Works here would be something that might promote our corporate connections, either in law or in business and in other ways. Earlier I mentioned that I was mistaken for a panhandler, and I guess in some circles that isn't such a bad thing. For example, the success of our campaign to date, given this economy, has really exceeded our expectations. I'm pleased to announce that giving to the university from all sources, including government sources last year for special projects, set a record in 2011 at $8.7 million. To date, total commitments to the $58 million campaign for Widener University, taking the lead, has exceeded $39 million at the end of last fiscal year. With everyone concerned with the stalemate in Washington, D.C., and the downgrade of America's fiscal rating by certain agencies, I think it's important to remind everyone that Widener reaffirmed its bond rating at a time when 70% of colleges and universities in America with ratings had their ratings downgraded. So while we face many challenges today, we appear to be in good, solid financial health as an institution. As I said this morning, flat is the new up, apparently. This is very good news, but even better news came just a few short weeks ago when we learned that Governor Corbett had signed an agreement to send $4 million to Widener to assist with the renovation of Old Main and to help us build a new academic building for communication studies, informatics, and computer science. Good news. So that's why Suk Chung is smiling and Dwight's smiling when you see them walking around, and Dean plus Leslie. I wish to thank the governor as well as Senator Pledgey, who sponsored the original bill over 6 years ago. So it's been a long time. I didn't expect it in this economy for it to happen, but governments work in strange and wonderful ways. An architectural firm has already been hired to work out all the academic programming, and over the next few weeks we'll identify the best location for this building on campus. The one difficulty that we have, although it's an opportunity, is that it must be built in 18 months. So we will be moving rapidly. I will try to keep you posted on our regular town hall discussions, and hopefully we'll you'll see lots more construction and bulldozers and everything outside. In a few moments, each member of the executive team will step forward to introduce our new colleagues at Widener. I want to take one moment to announce 2 new colleagues that will be working directly with Acting Provost Wilhite and me. First, I wish to announce that Dr. Arthur Schwartz has accepted my offer to be the founding director of the Oskin Leadership Institute. Dr. Schwartz is currently at the United States Air Force Academy, where he serves as a senior scholar for the Center for Character and Leadership Development. Now, Dr. Schwartz begins his duties on September 19th and couldn't be here today as he is dropping his son off at college as we speak in New Orleans. The other change, which is someone that we all know, is I wish to announce today that Dr. Suk Chung Yoon, holder of the Bailey Chair in Computer Science, has agreed to serve in a part-time capacity as a special assistant to the president to assist with some projects, including the construction of this new building and solidifying our international partnerships in China and exploring new opportunities with universities in Korea. As many of you know, Dr. Yoon just returned from a 1-year sabbatical where he served as an American Council on Education Fellow, and although he's only serving a few hours a week in this new capacity, I wanted to publicly acknowledge his willingness to serve and thank him for doing that. Can we give him a round of applause? Thank you for stepping up. Let me turn to what I believe are some of the priorities for the next year, issues which I believe we have to address if we're going to continue our upward trajectory as a university. With the year 2015 only 4 years away, and with the need for us to complete our Middle States periodic review this year, we need to determine how we will plan for the future after 2015. There are a few things for us to consider. Widener enjoys a rather robust strategic planning process that we've refined over the years. In fact, we've been recognized by several organizations for our planning process: Middle States, the Society for College and University Planning, and NUCUBO, the National Association for College and University Business Officers. And they really appreciate our comprehensive approach as well as the collaborative nature of our work. Even with those accolades, we must not rest on our laurels, and we should consider new ways to plan or at least tweak our planning process in the future. When we consider that our Middle States periodic report must be completed this year, and it calls for us to document 2 full cycles of academic and administrative assessment, and we do have evidence to support that, we must remember that Middle States selected us for a pilot site during their last visit. Now, what will Middle States expect from us in the future, and how shall we plan for future accreditation visits moving forward? Yes, we were a pilot at that time and identified as a model, but as Will Rogers once stated, 3 steps out front, you're a leader, 10 steps, you're a target. We want to remain a leader, we don't want to be a target, and how do we stay away from that in the future is a good question. The second priority for me is to determine the future of the 2-campus law school. Over the years, there have been many discussions about whether 2 campuses should remain one law school or should they divide into 2 distinct and separately accredited law schools. It is clear that the Harrisburg campus provides a vibrant learning community but acts in many ways as its own law school. What is interesting to me is that when it was started, it was a rogue model of sorts. However, today it is viewed as ahead of its time, with a number of other national universities choosing to adopt the same model. Last Friday, Dean Ammons and I visited Chicago to meet with ABA officials. We discussed the option of establishing Harrisburg as its own law school, as well as the advantage of remaining the same. The officials we met with were interested in our ideas, but left me with a clear impression that it's clear that it's only our decision. They really can go either way with us. So in my opinion, we have really 3 options. We remain as we are. Secondly, we could start preparing for a separately accredited law school at some undetermined future date, or we could move now to separately accredit before our ABA accreditation visit in just over a year. This year, we will be investigating our options, and Dean Ammons, Acting Provost Wilhite, and I will be discussing our options with the Board of Trustees. I bring this up today in the spirit of transparency so that everyone is aware that we are considering this as a possibility, but also so people do not become anxious about this discussion. It is natural for it to take place at this time because we would only be having this conversation if we believed Harrisburg was strong enough to stand on its own. I think it is, but we may be best to decide that we remain the same. So we have a number of different options. A third priority for me, this obviously would not come as a surprise, is to be even more involved in the campaign for Widener. This will require, we're now at that stage where the major lead gifts have come forward, and now we really have to work hard. And this will require visits with benefactors around the country and to make strides necessary to reach our goals. And it will be daunting. In one 3-week period, I believe I'm in Los Angeles, Chicago, and Atlanta, New York, and with different alumni groups all willing to want to help us, but it's certainly going to be difficult for us to accomplish it. A fourth priority is to hire someone to serve as our Senior Vice President and Provost. I deeply appreciate Dr. Wilhite's willingness to act in this acting role, or to take on this acting role. He's had great understanding of the university with over 25 years of experience at Widener. He was on the original strategic planning committee, and he's hit the ground running this summer, so I know that we're in good hands. Over the next few months, I will be meeting with trustees, deans, faculty members, administrators, alumni, and students to get a better understanding of what they desire in a provost and a senior vice president. Once I complete that discernment process, I will share with you how we plan to move forward. We have a very special institution here at Widener, a university with a wonderful spirit and perhaps an incredible resolve, and as Dr. Satterly says, a bit of magic sprinkled in. I know that with your support, with your patience and your participation, we can face any challenge and emerge a much stronger institution in the years ahead. I thank you, and I wish you the very best of luck this year. We can make one quick announcement. We do still have the evening in Paris at the Billy Kirkbride House. We had to make the decision by noon whether we were going to go out there or just move it to campus, but there are so many other events taking place on campus, we really didn't have a place to put it. So we made a decision, and Janice tells me that the weather report says it's only a 10% chance of rain by 7 o'clock tonight, and she also reports that in Paris it is raining.
Thank you, Dr. Harris. It is now my pleasure to introduce Acting Provost Stephen Wilhite for his remarks and introduction of new faculty members. Provost Wilhite.
Thank you, Dr. Satterly. It's my pleasure to join Dr. Satterly and President Harris in welcoming you to the start of the new academic year. I hope that the summer was a time of relaxation, productive scholarship, and mental and emotional replenishment. Even though I do have moments of sadness as the end of the summer approaches, I also feel a keen sense of anticipation at the start of the new school year. A sense of anticipation I have felt now for over 50 years. Since I entered first grade in 1959, I have never left the academy. Just one of many indicators my children would cite as evidence that I am the quintessential nerd. Nerd or not, I feel incredibly fortunate to have been able to spend almost all of my life in an educational setting. With each passing year, I am reinforced in my conviction that education is a transformative process. Since 1983, I have had the opportunity to be a part of that transformative process for Widener students. Over those 28 years, I have come to know many of you as colleagues, and I know that your commitment to the success of Widener students is the single greatest strength of this institution. As I take on the role of provost this year, I consider it a great honor and privilege to lead a faculty and a student life staff that is so focused on guiding our students to become educated citizens of character. For me, this new role represents another opportunity to be transformed by the challenges that we will collaboratively address as a university community in the process of preparing students to assume leadership roles in their lives beyond the university. To increase the opportunities to hear from you in the coming year, I will invoke a tradition from my years of graduate study in Britain and sponsor monthly informal tea time gatherings throughout the year, continuing the caffeine theme that Dr. Satterly established. If you have issues, questions, or experiences you would like to share with me, please try to attend these gatherings. I considered making sherry, another favorite beverage of my years in Oxford, the focus of these gatherings. However, unlike Oxford dons, most of us cannot walk to our home after several glasses of sherry, so in the interest of safety and modeling responsibility, we'll stick with tea. As the university launches this year a new public relations campaign focused on leadership, and as the Oskin Leadership Institute opens its doors and welcomes its new director, I challenge each of you to think about your involvement in leadership at the university. Faculty have multiple opportunities for leadership, beginning, of course, with their role in the classroom. Today, we are honoring one of our colleagues for distinguished leadership in teaching with the presentation of the Lindback Award. And in May, we recognized Dr. Joe Hargadon with the Fitz-Dixon Innovation in Teaching Prize. In some of the schools and colleges, additional faculty are recognized on an annual basis for their exemplary teaching. And as President Harris mentioned, the Office of Teaching, Learning, and Assessment is now intentionally promoting faculty who have been recognized within Widener for their leadership in teaching for consideration for national awards. However, I urge each academic unit to consider how we can renew the focus on leadership in teaching, especially as we engage students whose access to and processing of information is being shaped so powerfully by technology. As someone who is still somewhat challenged when it comes to text messaging and who does not yet have a Facebook account, I recognize the need for instructional leadership on how we can harness the ever-increasing internet access of our students to promote active, engaged learning in the classroom. Rather than focusing on how we can limit the use of mobile devices to access the internet in the classroom, we need to be promoting in class the use of active learning techniques that regularly require students to access and use the internet for engaged learning. I know that there are those of you out there who can and will provide instructional leadership in this area. In scholarship, faculty also have the potential to lead. In May, Dr. Don Gulick received the university's Outstanding Researcher Award, and other faculty colleagues are increasingly competing for and securing, as President Harris mentioned, external grants to support their research. Dr. Shirley Drayton Brooks' successful grant application that President Harris mentioned is a great example of how faculty leadership in program development and service can be integrated into a faculty member's scholarship agenda. Faculty also provide leadership through their involvement of students in their research projects. For example, Dr. Alexis Nagengast recently received a grant from the National Science Foundation that supported over the past 3 years the involvement of 12 students from chemistry, biology, and biochemistry in research on how different diets affect gene splicing and obesity. Dr. Nagengast and Dr. Janice Crum have taken the leadership role in coordinating the summer research program for undergraduate students in the College of Arts and Sciences. Also noteworthy for his efforts in involving undergraduate students in research is Dr. Lloyd Baston, who among numerous other efforts mentored Amber Cleedy, a biology major, in her successful application for a national research grant from the Biology Honor Society Beta 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 to support her senior thesis project. In the area of service, many faculty have provided leadership through their enthusiastic embrace of the university's civic engagement mission, including Dr. Poulin, whose national recognition President Harris has already cited. In addition, Dr. Nadine McHenry received in May the university's Civic Engagement Award for her work with Widener students on a wide range of community partnerships in Chester and the region. What is particularly impressive about the work of Dr. McHenry and Dr. Poulin and so many more of you involved in student-focused service to the community is the extent to which that work has become an integral part of your teaching and scholarship agendas. By demonstrating how involvement in service to the community can complement rather than detract from your commitment to teaching and scholarship, you are providing leadership to your colleagues at Widener and across the nation. In pursuing the leadership goal of the university's strategic plan, there has been an increasing emphasis on a more intentional approach to encouraging the development of leadership potential. President Harris's executive team has sponsored the attendance by a number of the university's administrators and faculty leaders at leadership development institutes offered by Harvard, Penn State, and Bryn Mawr, and has sponsored faculty to pursue year-long fellowships through the American Council on Education, as was the case for Dr. Yoon, whose participation was described earlier. In addition, the university's vice presidents have supported attendance by many of their direct reports at leadership training programs sponsored by professional associations. Within the past year, the university has launched the Academic Citizenship and Leadership Program under the guidance of Dean Matthew Pozluzny and Dr. Bridget Vallacy to assist faculty with the transition to administrative and faculty governance leadership roles. In student life and student affairs, a number of programs are being offered to foster the development of leadership skills in students, including the Elevate program, where Elevate stands for Enhancing Leadership Experiences via Activities, Training, and Engagement. Other student leadership efforts include special programming for the Bonner Fellows and for the Presidential Service Corps. Assisting in this university programming around leadership development is the Organizational Development Services, ODS, of the Institute for Graduate Clinical Psychology. The ODS director, Dr. Hal Shorey, and his PsyD interns provide leadership coaching to students, staff, and faculty through programs that benefit the training of the PsyD interns as they support the cultivation of leadership skills in other members of the university community. When Dr. Schwartz arrives as the director of the Oskin Leadership Institute in September, I look forward to working with him, Vice President Durant, the deans, faculty leaders, and other members of the Leadership Coalition on ways in which our leadership initiatives can be strengthened and expanded. In particular, I am interested in exploring multiple ways in which we can foster leadership development in our students through curricular and co-curricular experiences. For example, the Experiential Learning Task Force has submitted its report to the Academic Affairs Committee of Faculty Council. It is my expectation that some of the recommendations included in that report will provide guidance on how we can better structure and integrate our experiential learning opportunities so as to promote many learning outcomes articulated in the strategic plan, including the development of leadership skills in our graduates. I firmly believe that Widener's continued success in attracting students to this institution is dependent on this university's leadership in using civic engagement as a means to further the education of our students, the professional development of our faculty, and the well-being of our community. The most recent issue of Liberal Education, published by the Association of American Colleges and Universities, is devoted entirely to the topic of civic engagement. In their article in that issue on the influence of civic engagement on the psychosocial well-being of college students, Flanagan and Bundick makes the following observation in addressing the uncertainty that the new economy creates for college students, and I quote, "Coping with uncertainty is part of the human condition, but it produces more anxiety when we face those uncertainties alone. In civic engagement work, we learn that many challenges we experience as personal are, in fact, public issues that we share. And feelings of social support and connectedness make it easier to live with uncertainty," end quote. They then go on to quote one of my favorite psychologists, Albert Bandura, who wrote, and I quote, "Many of the challenges of life center on common problems that require people to work together with a collective voice to change their lives for the better," end quote. Perhaps Bandura should be required reading for our elected representatives in Washington. Despite the colossal lack of visionary leadership by so many members of Congress, I am confident that Widener will continue to exhibit exemplary leadership in civic engagement. My confidence derives from the wealth of talent and commitment that is embodied in those of you before me today. Thank you. Now we recognize leadership in teaching with the presentation of the Lynn Back Distinguished Teaching Award. Today's recipient is described by his dean as, quote, "one of the best and most popular teachers I have had the privilege of working with in my 20 years as a faculty member and administrator." He is described as possessing, quote, a personality that easily engages with students, a personality that comes through in the animated way in which he addresses his audience, whether teaching or participating in an academic panel. He does not use just the spoken word to communicate, but rather adroitly employs body language to effectively and enthusiastically convey his message. Students and colleagues alike who have seen him teach consistently report other ways in which his engaging manner is manifest. For example, he is always quick to relay colorful stories that makes the most abstract of concepts come alive. Beyond his engaging personality, another clear explanation for this professor's success is just plain hard work on behalf of students. He keeps in constant email communication with its classes during the term. For example, he often supplements class lectures with follow-up messages regarding salient course-related issues. He is also known to engage in the time-consuming exercise of regularly giving extra exams and other opportunities for feedback during the semester. Such effort on behalf of students do not stop at the classroom door. Outside of class, he is one of the most student-friendly and accessible professors in his academic unit. As an example, he has taken it upon himself to organize a series of brown bag lunches that provide a forum for students and faculty to discuss issues of particular moment to his discipline. A sampling of student comments from evaluations of his courses in the past 2 semesters give a flavor of how this faculty member is perceived by some of the most critical and demanding of Widener students. And here are those quotations, and they indeed truly are representative. Amazing asset to this school. Widener is very lucky. This professor is so helpful in and out of the classroom. He really cares about his students. Great professor, great person, great course. This professor teaches with such fervor and zeal that it's hard not to enjoy every aspect of the class. I'm grateful for the opportunity to study under and learn from someone as incredible as this professor. Phenomenal professor. Would that all professors were as passionate, organized, well-prepared, and friendly as this individual. This professor's enthusiasm for teaching made me want to learn more. I am so grateful to him for the respect shown to every student, especially given the variety of opinions expressed. Absolutely, the best professor I have ever had, simply awesome. It is my distinct honor to present to you the 2011 recipient of the Lindback Distinguished Teaching Award, Professor Jules Epstein from the School of Law, Delaware campus.
I'm aghast. I don't know what else to say. But actually, I have 3 things to say. One is, I will have to look at this, but I will say right now that if not all of it, a significant portion of this will be donated to the law school. I'm incredibly supportive of and appreciate that my colleagues are so supportive of giving back to the law school and the university. And that's the second thing maybe it'll only be 2. In getting this award, I don't view this as an award to me. I view this as an award to the law school and my many colleagues. I cannot do what I do without them, without our dean and our vice dean, without the folks, when I don't know the answer, who I can walk down the hall to and say, what does that mean? I just say this is a tremendous honor because I value teaching. I love to teach. And we're supposed to be scholars, and I'm doing my best there. Work with me, please. And I want to be a scholar, and I hope we at the law school, tremendous law school in terms of the engagement. The president knows at our graduation, we wear red tassels, red cords, for those professors and students who have engaged in pro bono work. And every year more and more people do it, and we get the numbers, and it is thousands of hours of pro bono work. So to me, this award, which I truly value, is really an award back to the law school and my colleagues there. And I just say to all of you as colleagues, thank you for this great honor. Thank you.
And it's now my pleasure to introduce newly arrived members of the Widener community. When I call your name, if you'll please just stand, and if you would please hold your applause until we have introduced all of the new members of the Widener community. We begin with faculty, College of Arts and Sciences, Allison Byer, Senior Lecturer in Physics, Shara Compton, Senior Lecturer in Chemistry, Carrie Leung, Visiting Assistant Professor, Biology, Kevin Marshall, Assistant Professor, Physics and Astronomy, Sarah Nixa, Assistant Professor, Sociology, Jordan Troisi, Visiting Instructor in Psychology, School of Human Service Professions, Sachi Ando, Assistant Professor in Social Work, Virginia Folk New, Visiting Clinical Assistant Professor of Social Work, Linda Hauser, Assistant Professor of Social Work, Michelle McCann, Clinical Instructor and Social Work Counseling Services Administrator, Rose McNeil Sampson, Principal and CEO of the Widener Partnership Charter School, Megan Pfeiffer, Assistant Professor in Education, Sabitha Pillay Friedman, Assistant Professor of Human Sexuality Education, Tracy Rush, Clinical Assistant Professor of Education and Director of Field Experiences, Courtney Slater, Visiting Assistant Professor of Psychology, Pamela Zerba, Co-Academic Coordinator of Clinical Education and Clinical Assistant Professor of Physical Therapy. In the School of Engineering, Ben Wong, Assistant Professor of Biomedical Engineering. In the School of Business Administration, Robert Uberti, Visiting Instructor. In the School of Nursing, Sherry Adkins, Assistant Professor. Suzanne Foley, Assistant Professor. In the School of Law, Rebecca Scalio, Assistant Legal Methods Professor. Luke Shore, Assistant Professor. Andre Smith, Associate Professor. Stephen Steinglass, Visiting Distinguished Professor. And in the Wolfgram Library, Samuel Stormont, Associate Librarian. Please join me in welcoming the new faculty. Now, new administrative appointments in the academic side of the house. First, in Academic Support Services, Karen Daly, Academic Coach and Advisor. In Career Development Services, Laura Shirlello, Career Counselor and Co-op advisor. In the School of Law admissions, Troy Riddle, multicultural affairs officer. In career development at the School of Law, Crystal Diesel, career counselor. In the library, Delaware campus, Barbara Mindell, educational technology specialist. Sarah Repaniski, technical services librarian. Library Harrisburg campus, Susan Gusty, technical services librarian. In student affairs, Alexandra Gamberg, assistant director of residential life. And Lindsay Ruby, assistant director of University Center. Please welcome these new administrative appointees. And now, Vice President Baker.
Good afternoon. Welcome back to the beginning of another year. It's my pleasure and honor to introduce you this afternoon, our new colleagues in the administration and finance area. First, in the athletics, Kevin Cunningham, who's the head coach of the women's cross-country track and field team. He's back there waving. Brendan Dawson, who's the head men's lacrosse coach. And if you could rate me standing also. Nadir Kawash, equipment manager. Catherine Peterson, who's the head swimming coach and aquatics director. And unable to be with us from the athletics, new joining us, Cassandra Benitez, who's actually assistant athletic trainer with our teams right now on the field. And Paul Boudreau, who's the assistant head football coach, who's actually in a bus right now on his way to Wesley for a scrimmage. In the controller's office, Michaela Ryan, staff accountant. In the information technology services, Cameron Anderson, PC support specialist. Philip Ayala, PC support specialist from Harrisburg. In enrollment management services and student financial services, Christopher Corrado, the assistant director of student financial services. Wendy Rosillo, the student financial services counselor. Unable to be with us from financial aid in the School of Law is Rachel Semino, who's a financial aid officer in Delaware. And Carol Wayland, who's the assistant director of financial aid in Harrisburg. And last but not least, in the operations area, Steve Martin, the administration operations director. Please join me in welcoming our new colleagues. And now Vice President Linda Durant will introduce new appointments in the advancement area.
Thank you, Joe. Good afternoon, and to my faculty colleagues, Happy New Year. I was thinking we have 3 New Years. We have the calendar one for us that are in the finance world. It's July 1 is Happy New Year, and for my colleagues in academia, this is Happy New Year, so welcome. I am pleased to introduce 4 new members of the University Advancement staff. And first of all, within the Office of Development, we have Jessica Prince, who's the Associate Director of the Widener Fund and a Widener alumna. We have Amy Wilson, who's our new Associate Vice President for Development. We have Melanie Franz, who's our new Senior Graphics Designer in University Relations. And our other new individual in University Relations is our Special Events Coordinator, who is at the Billy Kirkbride House as we speak, setting up for this evening. So she's not here, so welcome.
I would also like to add my welcome to those of you who are new to the Widener community. So I hope we'll find it indeed a magical place. Without any further ado, I would call for an adjournment. Second. Okay, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.